If you're a woman over 55 and you've noticed that opening a jar has become harder, or you walk into a room and forget why you're there, what I'm about to share could change everything. Because while most women think this is just normal aging, I've seen how 3 specific nutrients can actually reverse these changes, and the women who ignore this often end up losing their independence much sooner than they should. My name is Dr. Susan Miller, and I'm a geriatric medicine specialist with over 20 years helping women navigate the challenges of aging. What I've learned through thousands of consultations is that sarcopenia, which is the medical term for age-related muscle loss, and cognitive decline are not inevitable. They're often the result of very specific nutritional deficiencies that most women don't even know they have. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you never miss another health tip made especially for you. If you find this video helpful, please leave your questions and video suggestions in the comments below. I read every single one, and it helps me create more content to help people just like you. Now, let me tell you about Señora Maria Conceicão, 72 years old, a retired teacher from Belo Horizonte. Maria lived alone and prided herself on her independence. She had raised 3 children by herself after her husband passed away when she was 45, and she always said that her strength was what got her through life. But about 2 years ago, things started changing. She began dropping things. Her hands felt weaker. At first, she thought it was just arthritis, something her mother had dealt with. Then she started having trouble getting up from her favorite chair, the one she'd sit in every evening to read. Her daughter noticed that Maria would sometimes call her 3 times in one day asking the same question, something she'd never done before. Maria was scared but didn't want to worry her children, so she kept quiet. Until one day, she fell in her bathroom because her legs simply gave out. Thankfully, she only had bruises, but her daughter insisted on taking her to see me. When I examined Maria and reviewed her diet, I immediately saw the problem. She was barely eating enough protein, she avoided fatty fish because she thought it would raise her cholesterol, and she rarely went outside, so her vitamin D levels were critically low. Maria wasn't just getting old, she was starving her muscles and her brain of the exact nutrients they desperately needed. Let me explain what was happening inside Maria's body, because it's probably happening inside yours too. After the age of 50, women lose about 1 to 2% of their muscle mass every single year. By the time you reach 70, you could have lost up to 30% of the muscle you had in your 30s. This isn't just about looking toned or being able to lift heavy things. Your muscles are metabolically active tissue. They regulate your blood sugar, they protect your bones, they keep you mobile and independent. When you lose muscle, your entire body suffers. But here's what most women don't realize. This muscle loss accelerates dramatically after menopause because estrogen, which helps protect and build muscle, drops significantly. And at the same time, your brain is also changing. The hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for forming new memories, starts to shrink. The connections between neurons become less efficient. Blood flow to the brain decreases. And just like your muscles, your brain needs very specific nutrients to stay healthy and functional. The first nutrient that every woman over 55 absolutely needs is high-quality protein. Now, I know what you're thinking because I hear it all the time in my office. You think you're eating enough protein. You have a piece of chicken at lunch, maybe some beans at dinner. But here's the truth that changed everything for Maria and hundreds of my other patients. Women over 55 need significantly more protein than younger women, and the type and timing of that protein matters enormously. As we age, we develop what scientists call anabolic resistance. This means your muscles become resistant to the signals that tell them to grow and repair themselves. You need more protein to get the same muscle-building effect you used to get with less. The research shows that women over 55 should be consuming at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight every single day. For a woman weighing 65 kilograms, that's about 78 grams of protein daily, but most of my patients are eating less than half of that. And it's not just about the total amount. Your body can only use about 25 to 30 grams of protein at one time to build muscle. So if you eat a small breakfast with no protein, a light lunch with a little bit, and then a big dinner with most of your protein, you're missing 2 opportunities every day to stimulate muscle growth. I had Maria start eating protein at every single meal. Eggs or Greek yogurt at breakfast, fish or chicken at lunch, lean meat or legumes at dinner. Within 3 months, she could feel the difference. But protein does something else that most people don't know about. It's absolutely critical for your brain. The neurotransmitters that control your mood, your memory, your ability to focus, they're all made from amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. Serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. These are the chemicals that keep your brain functioning properly, and you cannot make them without adequate protein. When Maria increased her protein intake, she didn't just get stronger. Her thinking became clearer. She stopped forgetting things. Her mood improved dramatically. If you're still watching and finding this information valuable, please comment below so I know you're with me and I can keep creating content like this for you. Now let me tell you about the second nutrient that absolutely transformed Maria's health. Omega-3 fatty acids. For years, Maria had been afraid of eating fatty fish because her previous doctor told her to watch her cholesterol. So she avoided salmon, sardines, mackerel, all the fish that are richest in omega-3s. This is one of the most dangerous misconceptions I see in women over 55. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, are essential fats that your body cannot make on its own. You must get them from food or supplements, and they are absolutely critical for both muscle and brain health. Let me explain why. Your muscle cells are surrounded by membranes made largely of fatty acids. When those membranes are rich in omega-3s, they become more sensitive to the signals that tell muscles to grow. Omega-3s also reduce inflammation throughout your body, and chronic inflammation is one of the main drivers of muscle loss as we age. But it's what omega-3s do for your brain that really amazed Maria. The human brain is about 60% fat, and a huge portion of that is DHA. DHA is concentrated in the cell membranes of neurons, especially in areas responsible for memory and learning. When you don't get enough omega-3s, those cell membranes become rigid and less functional. The neurons can't communicate as effectively. Blood flow to the brain decreases, and this is when memory problems start. There's something else fascinating that I always share with my patients. Studies have shown that women with higher levels of omega-3s in their blood have larger brain volumes, particularly in the hippocampus, which is the memory center. They also have better blood flow to areas of the brain involved in memory and learning. When I explained this to Maria and showed her that eating salmon twice a week wouldn't hurt her cholesterol and would actually protect her heart, her eyes lit up. She loved fish, she just thought she wasn't allowed to eat it. Within 2 months of adding omega-3 rich foods to her diet, Maria noticed something remarkable. She started remembering names again, something she'd struggled with for over a year. She could follow conversations better. Her daughter told me that Maria seemed more like her old self, sharp and engaged. And her muscle strength continued to improve because the omega-3s were helping her muscles respond better to the protein she was now eating. But if you think that's impressive, wait until you hear about Señora Beatriz Santos, 68 years old, a retired nurse from Porto Alegre. Beatriz had always been active, walking every morning, doing her exercises. But about 18 months ago, she started feeling exhausted all the time. Her muscles felt weak despite her activity level, and she began having what she called brain fog. She'd be talking to someone and lose her train of thought mid-sentence. She went to several doctors who ran tests, but everything came back normal. Her thyroid was fine, her blood count was good, no diabetes. When Beatrice came to see me, I asked one simple question that changed everything. When was the last time you spent time in the sun without sunscreen? She looked at me puzzled and said, probably never. She'd been terrified of skin cancer her whole life and always covered up completely or used SPF 50. That's when I knew. Beatrice wasn't sick. She was severely deficient in vitamin D, the third critical nutrient that women over 55 absolutely need. Vitamin D deficiency is an epidemic among older women, and most doctors aren't looking for it. In my practice, I test every woman over 55, and I'd say at least 70% have levels below what's optimal. Why is this happening? First, as we age, our skin becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight. A 70-year-old produces about 75% less vitamin D from the same sun exposure compared to a 20-year-old. Second, many women avoid the sun or use heavy sunscreen, which blocks vitamin D production. Third, very few foods naturally contain significant amounts of vitamin D. But here's what most people don't understand about vitamin D. It's not really a vitamin, it's a hormone that affects virtually every cell in your body, including your muscles and your brain. In muscle cells, vitamin D binds to specific receptors that regulate muscle protein synthesis, the process of building new muscle. When you're deficient in vitamin D, your muscles cannot function optimally no matter how much protein you eat or how much you exercise. Studies have shown that vitamin D deficiency leads to muscle weakness, slower movement, and an increased risk of falls. The impact on your brain is equally profound. Vitamin D receptors are found throughout the brain, especially in areas involved in memory, mood, and cognitive function. Vitamin D helps protect brain cells from damage, reduces inflammation, and supports the growth of new neurons. Low vitamin D levels have been linked to an increased risk of cognitive decline and dementia. Some research suggests that women with severe vitamin D deficiency are more than twice as likely to experience cognitive impairment compared to those with adequate levels. When I tested Beatrice, her vitamin D level was 19 nanograms per milliliter. Optimal levels are between 40 and 60. I started her on vitamin D supplementation, and I also encouraged her to get 15 minutes of sun exposure on her arms and legs 3 times a week without sunscreen. The transformation was remarkable. Within 6 weeks, Beatrice told me she had energy again. Her brain fog cleared. She could think clearly and remember things without effort. By 3 months, her muscle strength had improved so much that she went back to her morning exercise routine with enthusiasm she hadn't felt in years. Now, here's something that surprised even me when I started seeing it over and over in my practice. These 3 nutrients work synergistically, which means they enhance each other's effects. Vitamin D helps your body absorb and utilize protein more effectively for muscle building. Omega-3s reduce inflammation that can interfere with vitamin D function. Protein provides the building blocks that omega-3s and vitamin D help incorporate into muscle and brain tissue. When you optimize all 3 together, the results are far greater than improving just one. Let me tell you about Señora Rosa Fernandez, 75 years old, a widow from Curitiba who used to run a small bakery. Rosa's children were worried because she'd become increasingly frail. She'd lost so much muscle that her clothes hung off her frame. She was forgetting to turn off the stove, missing doctor's appointments, getting confused about what day it was. Her children were talking about assisted living, which broke Rosa's heart because she desperately wanted to stay in the home she'd shared with her late husband. When Rosa came to my office, I could see the fear in her eyes. She thought she was developing dementia like her mother had. But after reviewing her diet and running some tests, I found that Rosa was deficient in all 3 nutrients we've been talking about. Her protein intake was barely 40 grams a day, she ate no fish whatsoever, and her vitamin D level was dangerously low at 15 nanograms per milliliter. Rosa wasn't losing her mind. She was malnourished. I sat down with Rosa and her daughter and created a very simple plan. We started with breakfast. Instead of just coffee and bread, Rosa would have 2 eggs and Greek yogurt with berries. At lunch, she'd have a palm-sized portion of chicken or fish with vegetables. At dinner, more protein with legumes or lean meat. I had her take a vitamin D supplement daily and an omega-3 supplement from fish oil. We also had her eat salmon or sardines twice a week. The changes in Rosa were nothing short of miraculous, and I don't use that word lightly. After 1 month, her daughter called me crying, but they were tears of joy. Rosa's confusion had cleared. She was remembering things again, making conversation, laughing at jokes. After 3 months, Rosa had gained 4 kilograms, mostly muscle. She could walk to the market by herself again, something she hadn't done in over a year. After 6 months, Rosa was cooking in her kitchen again, the place that had always been her sanctuary. Her children stopped talking about assisted living because Rosa had her independence back. Now, I want to address something important because I know some of you are thinking this. You might be wondering if you can just take supplements and skip the dietary changes. And while supplements can be helpful, especially for vitamin D and omega-3s, they cannot replace real food when it comes to protein. Your body recognizes and uses protein from whole foods much more effectively than from processed protein powders or bars. Plus, whole foods provide dozens of other beneficial nutrients that work together to support your health. That being said, I do recommend supplements in certain situations. For vitamin D, it's very difficult to get adequate amounts from food alone, especially if you live in a place with limited sunlight, or if you have darker skin, which produces vitamin D less efficiently. A vitamin D3 supplement of 1,000 to 2,000 international units daily is safe and effective for most women over 55, but you should have your levels tested and work with your doctor to determine the right dose for you. For omega-3s, if you don't eat fatty fish at least twice a week, a high-quality fish oil supplement providing at least 1,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA daily can be very beneficial. Look for supplements that are third-party tested for purity, because some fish oils can be contaminated with mercury or other toxins. And if you're vegetarian or vegan, you can get omega-3s from algae-based supplements, which is actually where fish get their omega-3s in the first place. But supplements cannot replace dietary protein. You need to eat protein-rich foods at every meal. And here's a practical tip that made a huge difference for my patients. Most women over 55 find it easier to eat smaller, more frequent meals rather than 3 large ones. So instead of forcing yourself to eat a huge piece of meat, have 4 or 5 smaller meals throughout the day, each with 15 to 20 grams of protein, a Greek yogurt with nuts for a snack, a hard-boiled egg mid-morning, a small piece of fish at lunch. This approach is often much more manageable and just as effective. I also want to talk about something that many of my patients struggle with: appetite changes. As we age, our appetite naturally decreases. This is partly hormonal and partly due to changes in our taste and smell. But loss of appetite is one of the main reasons older women don't eat enough protein. If this is happening to you, there are strategies that can help. First, focus on nutrient-dense foods that pack a lot of nutrition into smaller portions. Greek yogurt, eggs, fatty fish, these foods provide high-quality protein and healthy fats without requiring you to eat large volumes. Second, consider the timing of your meals. Many older women find they have the best appetite in the morning, so make breakfast your protein-rich meal of the day. Have eggs or cottage cheese or smoked salmon. Don't waste your best appetite on just toast and coffee. Third, if you're having trouble chewing or swallowing, which becomes more common as we age, try softer protein sources like flaked fish, ground meat, eggs, or Greek yogurt. You can also blend protein-rich foods into smoothies. Let me share one more story that really illustrates the importance of acting on this information. Señora Isabel Rodriguez, 70 years old, a former seamstress from Florianopolis. Isabel came to see me because her granddaughter, who's a nursing student, noticed that Isabel was becoming weaker and more forgetful. The granddaughter had learned about sarcopenia and cognitive decline in school and suspected nutritional deficiencies. When I met Isabel, she was skeptical. She said she'd eaten the same way her whole life and never had problems before, so why would she need to change now? I explained to Isabel that her body's needs had changed dramatically since she went through menopause. When she was younger, her body was much more efficient at using nutrients. But now, at 70, she needed more protein, more omega-3s, and more vitamin D to maintain the same muscle mass and cognitive function. I also explained that the consequences of ignoring these changes were serious. Muscle loss leads to frailty, falls, fractures, and loss of independence. Cognitive decline affects quality of life, relationships, and the ability to live safely alone. Isabel agreed to try for 3 months, just to see if it made any difference. She started eating eggs every morning instead of just bread. She added canned sardines to her lunch several times a week, something she actually used to enjoy but had stopped eating. She started taking vitamin D. And you know what happened? After just 6 weeks, Isabel called me excited. She said she felt stronger, her mind felt clearer, and she had more energy than she'd had in years. By 3 months, Isabel was a completely different person. She'd regained muscle mass, her memory had improved significantly, and she was walking every day with confidence she hadn't felt in a long time. What really touched me was when Isabel told me that she wished she'd known about this sooner. She said if someone had explained these things to her when she turned 55, she could have prevented years of gradual decline. And that's exactly why I'm making this video. Because I don't want you to wait until you've lost significant muscle mass and cognitive function before you take action. Prevention is so much easier than reversal, although as you've seen from the stories I've shared, reversal is absolutely possible at any age. Now let's talk about practical implementation because knowing what to do isn't enough. You need to know how to actually do it. Let me give you a simple framework that's worked for hundreds of my patients. Think of your day as having 3 protein opportunities: breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 2 snack opportunities. At each main meal, include a palm-sized portion of protein-rich food. That's about 20 to 30 grams of protein, 2 eggs plus Greek yogurt at breakfast, a piece of fish or chicken the size of your palm at lunch, lean meat or legumes at dinner. For snacks, think of smaller protein sources: a handful of nuts, about 15 grams of protein, a piece of string cheese, some cottage cheese with fruit, a small protein smoothie. These snacks add up to another 20 to 30 grams of protein throughout the day. When you structure your eating this way, reaching your protein goal becomes much more achievable. For omega-3s, aim to eat fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, or herring at least twice a week. Each serving should be about 100 to 150 grams. If you really dislike fish, then a high-quality omega-3 supplement is essential. Don't skip this nutrient because it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. Your brain and muscles are depending on it. For vitamin D, I recommend that every woman over 55 get her levels tested. This is a simple blood test that your doctor can order. If you're deficient, you'll need higher doses initially to build up your levels, then a maintenance dose. In general, 1,000 to 2,000 international units daily is a good maintenance dose, but some women need more. And please, get some sensible sun exposure. 15 to 20 minutes on your arms and legs 3 times a week, before you apply sunscreen, can make a significant difference. Here's something else that's really important. Resistance exercise. All the nutrients in the world won't build muscle if you're not using your muscles. And I'm not talking about running marathons or lifting heavy weights at the gym, although if you can do those things, that's wonderful. I'm talking about simple resistance exercises you can do at home. Squats using a chair for support. Wall push-ups. Lifting light weights or even cans of food. Resistance bands. The key is to challenge your muscles at least 2 to 3 times a week. When Maria, the patient I told you about at the beginning, combined her improved nutrition with simple home exercises, the results were even more dramatic. Not only did she regain the strength to get up from her chair easily, but she also started doing things she hadn't done in years, like gardening and playing with her grandchildren on the floor. The combination of adequate protein, omega-3s, vitamin D, and resistance exercise is incredibly powerful. I also want to address some common concerns and questions I hear from patients. Some women worry that eating more protein will damage their kidneys. Let me be clear about this. If you have healthy kidney function, there is no evidence that a high-protein diet causes kidney damage. The recommendations I'm giving you, about 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, are safe for healthy women. However, if you have existing kidney disease, you should work with your doctor to determine the appropriate protein intake for your situation. Another concern I hear is about the cost of eating more protein, especially fish. I understand that budget is a real consideration for many women, especially those living on fixed incomes. Here's what I tell my patients. You don't need expensive cuts of meat or fresh salmon flown in from Alaska. Eggs are one of the most affordable, high-quality protein sources available. Canned sardines and canned salmon are inexpensive and incredibly nutritious. Beans, lentils, and other legumes are cheap and provide good protein, especially when combined with whole grains. Greek yogurt is often on sale. Chicken thighs are less expensive than chicken breasts and just as nutritious. You can definitely meet your protein needs on a budget. Some women tell me they're worried about gaining weight if they eat more protein. This is actually the opposite of what happens. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it keeps you feeling full longer than carbohydrates or fats. When my patients increase their protein intake, they often naturally eat less of other things because they're not as hungry. Plus, muscle is metabolically active tissue. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn at rest. So building and maintaining muscle actually helps with weight management. Now let's talk about something that's often overlooked but incredibly important: hydration. As we age, our sense of thirst decreases, and many older women are chronically dehydrated without realizing it. Dehydration affects everything: your muscle function, your cognitive performance, your energy levels, your digestion. If you're not drinking enough water, the nutrients you're eating can't do their job effectively. I recommend that women over 55 aim for at least 8 glasses of water daily, more if it's hot or if you're exercising. A good way to tell if you're well hydrated is by checking your urine color. It should be pale yellow, not dark. If you struggle to drink plain water, try herbal tea, water with lemon, or eating water-rich foods like cucumbers, watermelon, and soups. Just please don't rely on caffeinated beverages for hydration because caffeine is a diuretic. I want to take a moment to talk about something that many women don't discuss, but that significantly impacts their nutrition and health: depression and social isolation. When women live alone, especially after losing a spouse, they often stop cooking proper meals. They might eat toast for dinner or skip meals entirely. Depression suppresses appetite and makes it hard to motivate yourself to prepare food. If this resonates with you, please know that you're not alone, and there are solutions. First, talk to your doctor about how you're feeling. Depression is treatable, and addressing it can dramatically improve your appetite and your ability to care for yourself. Second, try to find ways to make eating social. Join a senior center that provides meals. Organize regular meals with friends or family. Even eating while on a video call with someone can make meals more enjoyable and encourage you to eat more. Third, prepare simple meals that you find comforting and satisfying. This isn't the time to worry about gourmet cooking. Focus on nourishing your body with the nutrients it needs. There's also the issue of medications. Many women over 55 take multiple medications, and some of these can affect appetite, taste, nutrient absorption, or how your body uses nutrients. For example, some medications for high blood pressure or depression can reduce appetite. Some acid-reducing medications can interfere with protein digestion and vitamin B12 absorption. If you're taking medications and having trouble eating enough, or if you're experiencing unusual symptoms, talk to your doctor about whether your medications might be contributing to the problem. Let me share something that I've observed over 20 years of practice. The women who do best, who maintain their strength and cognitive function well into their 80s and 90s, are not the ones who were blessed with perfect genetics or unlimited resources. They're the women who took action. They educated themselves about what their bodies needed, and they made consistent, sustainable changes to meet those needs. They didn't wait for a crisis. They didn't assume that decline was inevitable. They took control of their health, and it made all the difference. You have the same opportunity right now. The information I've shared with you today about protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and vitamin D is not theoretical. It's practical, evidence-based guidance that has transformed the lives of hundreds of my patients. Women like Maria, who regained her strength and independence. Women like Beatrice, who got her energy and mental clarity back. Women like Rosa, who reversed what looked like dementia and stayed in her beloved home. Women like Isabel, who felt 20 years younger after just a few months of proper nutrition. But here's the thing, this only works if you actually implement it. Knowing is not enough. You have to take action. And I promise you, if you start focusing on getting adequate protein at every meal, incorporating omega-3 rich foods into your diet, optimizing your vitamin D levels, and staying physically active, you will see and feel the difference. Your muscles will get stronger. Your mind will get sharper. Your energy will improve. Your quality of life will be dramatically better. Start today. Have eggs for breakfast tomorrow. Buy some canned sardines or salmon at the grocery store. Schedule an appointment with your doctor to get your vitamin D tested. Take a walk around your neighborhood. Do some squats holding onto a chair. These small actions compound over time into major improvements in your health and well-being. And please, don't make the mistake of thinking it's too late or that you're too old for this to matter. I've seen women in their 80s make remarkable improvements. Your body has an incredible ability to respond to proper nutrition and activity at any age. But the sooner you start, the better your results will be, and the more years of vibrant, independent living you'll enjoy. I want to leave you with one final thought. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's not vain. It's not optional. When you maintain your strength and cognitive function, you're able to be there for the people you love. You're able to enjoy your grandchildren, support your friends, contribute to your community. You're able to live life on your own terms rather than becoming dependent on others. That's what's at stake here. Your independence, your dignity, your joy in life. So please, take what I've shared with you today seriously. Share this information with other women in your life who need to hear it. And most importantly, make the commitment to yourself that you're going to prioritize your nutritional health starting right now. Your future self will thank you for it. Remember, before making any significant changes to your diet or starting new supplements, especially if you have existing health conditions or take medications, consult with your healthcare provider. Every woman's situation is unique, and you deserve personalized guidance that takes into account your specific health status and needs. If you found this information helpful, please share it with other women who could benefit from it. Leave your questions in the comments. I really do read them and use them to create more videos that address your concerns. And remember, you have more control over your health and your future than you might think. The power is in your hands. Take action today and transform your tomorrow.